Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Lee. Good afternoon and good evening to some of you. Again, my name is Anthony Leduc. I am on behalf of the two centers. Our center is the Asian Research Center for Religion and Social Communication, and also the Desmond Tutu Center for Religion and Social Justice. It's my absolute honor and privilege to welcome all of you to our online forum. And today marks a very special milestone, actually, as we gather for our third annual joint public lecture, which is organized as a collaboration between our two centers. And so no matter from where you are tuning in, we're very grateful for your presence. For those who have not heard of the ARC before, our core mission at the center is to actively promote dialogue and research at the vital intersection of religion and social communication. And we strive to do this through various channels, including peer review publications and international conferences, both offline as well as online, such as this one. And so our institutional work has been profoundly enriched through our ongoing collaboration with the Desmond Tutu Center. And this partnership has evolved beautifully over the last 3 years. It's a collaboration that inspires us not only at the level of the cutting edge topics that we explore together, but more importantly, at the structural level of fostering a genuine intercontinental Asia-Africa dialogue. And this robust partnership isn't limited to this annual lecture series alone. The Desmond Tutu Center has been an incredibly active partner in our international roundtables, both last year and continuing into this year. And through these roundtables and lectures, we are actively dismantling academic silos and building a strong and reciprocal bridge of knowledge, that insight between the African and Asian context. And this brings me to the fourth point of today's lecture, which perfectly embodies the spirit of our intercontinental exchange. Today, we delve into the fascinating topic of musical Qasida, Nasaha crew, and the Islamic popular culture in Tanzania. We're privileged to have Professor Dr. Hassan from Moi University, Kenya, as our keynote speaker, alongside our distinguished respondents, Dr. Musa Ibrahim from Ghana, and Professor Chandra Patanayak from India. And this lecture explores how Tanzania Muslims negotiate religious identity, spirituality, and leisure within the landscape of popular culture, effectively blurring the lines between the sacred and the secular. And this theme is profoundly relevant to our ongoing African-Asian dialogue. Both of our continents share deeply rooted religious traditions that are constantly interacting with rapid modern media, globalization, and shifting social communication landscapes. So by looking closely at the Qasida performances in Tanzania, we gain a comparative lens to understand how communities across both Asia and Africa utilize media and popular culture to preserve, reshape, and express their faith in a rapidly changing world. And it reminds us that religion isn't static, it's communicative, performative, and deeply embedded in the cultural fabric of our daily life. I'm certain that today's presentations and the responses and the discussions to follow will provoke new insights and further inspire our shared research trajectory. So once again, thank you to the Desmond Tutu Center, our esteemed speakers and respondents, and to all of you in the audience for joining us today. And so I now turn back to Lee, Dr. Lee, in order to say a few words.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Anthony. And I also have the privilege of saying a few opening words. I just would like to ask all of our participants to please mute themselves if you haven't done so already. And then, because we are connecting across continents and time zones, if you would please be so kind as to introduce yourself in the chat. Using the chat feature, you can just tell us who you are and where you are joining us from. We so appreciate that you've made the time to be with us today. And Anthony has already mentioned the formal context of our relationship, and so I won't belabor that point. But I would like to take a moment to speak quite candidly about the context in which we gather. And as many of you know too well, the funding landscape in higher education across the globe is deeply concerning, and resources are far and few between. We often find ourselves, especially in the global south, with considerable effort, being able to secure resources to work with our partners in Europe and North America. And those relationships are certainly important. However, there are far fewer opportunities to work deliberately and systematically with colleagues on our own continent and in Asia. Intentional, sustained South-South relationships are rare, and we often have to leverage outside and sometimes European funding to bring African and Asian colleagues together, which can be bureaucratic, restrictive, and ultimately quite limiting. This is precisely why this kind of partnership matters. It matters because it disrupts the usual patterns and charts a different path, one based on mutual respect, shared challenges, and intellectual solidarity. And this brings me to something that I'm particularly and deeply passionate about, the concept of micro partnerships. Micro partnerships are small, manageable, and sustainable exchanges that don't require massive institutional grants to get started. They begin with something as simple as a shared research interest, a joint reading group, or co-supervising a student. These relationships, these partnerships are nimble, reciprocal, and they build trust over time. For us at the DTC and at the ARC, this has played out in numerous ways, from publications to co-organized panels and exchanges of academics and also postgraduate students. It is about the grassroots, the people-to-people work that builds the foundation for the larger collaborations. And while these micro partnerships are, I suppose, considered a little bit less glamorous than big budget projects, they are often more resilient and more genuinely transformative. These kinds of partnerships remind us that we don't need to rely solely on intellectual gatekeepers or big funding organizations to build meaningful intellectual communities. And this lecture series itself is a product of a micro partnership that has grown into something much larger. These opening remarks also give me a chance to reflect on the broader intellectual vision behind this collaboration. The objectives of this lecture are deliberately ambitious and timely, and we seek to explore how religion's mediatization, digitalization, find expression within diverse African and Asian contexts. We aim to encourage and enhance Asian African research relationships with the explicit intention of disrupting the dominance of intellectual traditions and epistemological orientations that have long been centered in the global north. And we are committed to disseminating through intentional public scholarship research findings on topics of deep social significance, on religion, media, and other forms of social communication. And as someone who is trained in comparative religion, I find myself particularly drawn to the possibilities that emerge in this political and intellectual moment. I think that we stand at a unique juncture where a decolonially informed comparative religion, attentive to its ethical obligations and deeply reflexive about its own genealogies, can offer something genuinely new and generative. I'm really excited to be working on this, and I see this lecture series as a crucial site for that work. And now to the lecture itself. The study of religion in Africa has often been dominated by diagnosis and pathologization. We have a vast oeuvre detailing our problems and crises, but far less on our moments of joy, celebration, and pleasure. Both are important. The critical lens gives us the language to name injustice and hold systems of power accountable. We cannot afford to ignore the very real ways religion has become entangled with violence and exclusion. But when critique becomes our only lens, we produce an incomplete and distorting picture. Communities cannot be defined solely by their pathologies. Joy does not erase suffering, but it often exists alongside it, sometimes even in spite of it. To study one without the other is to study a shadow rather than a full-bodied reality of lived religion. We need to both honor the complexity of how people actually live, believe, and belong. And so I'm particularly thrilled that this lecture, with its focus on Qasida, musical performances in Tanzania, contests what are sometimes the extremely heavy stories of religion, but it is no less powerful for it. In fact, I would want to argue that it is even more powerful because it captures the texture of lived religion. Before we proceed, I would like to acknowledge a very special presence with us today. We are deeply honored to have with us Professor Rosalind Hackett, who is a leading expert on religion in Africa, a dear friend and a personal mentor. And she's also an extraordinary professor in the Desmond Tutu Center for Religion and Social Justice. Prof. Hackett's decades of experience as an academic dedicated to the transnational, intercontinental study of religion are truly unparalleled. Her work has shaped the field, and her commitment to building bridges across continents has inspired so many of us. I am profoundly grateful for her presence, her wisdom, and her unwavering support of this collaboration and the work that we do in our center. And now it is my privilege to invite Prof. Hackett to share some remarks on the importance of collaborative studies on religion, culture, and social communication between Asia and Africa. Professor Hackett, if you are ready, you can switch on your mic and address our colleagues this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lee, and it's an honor and a real pleasure to be here. I'm excited to learn about your this whole project, the collaboration and the Asia Africa connection. I'm going to say a little bit about my own experience and hopefully offer some words of inspiration to ensure that you are further empowered to do this timely and important research collaboration. And before I make the few remarks I wish to, I was actually sitting at lunch here at the Stellenbosch Institute for Advanced Study, sitting next to a South African woman, a scholar from Rhodes, who works on literature, post-colonial African literature. And she was telling me about the exciting collaborations that they are generating too. A lot funded by German money. And she said that just as Professor Lee just said, these are very doable. They're not too ambitious. They can be multilateral. They can be, but they generate conversations across national lines in ways that is enriching more micro projects or individual projects. So definitely this is the way to go. And I would like to also add that early on, because of doing research in Nigeria as a master's or an MPhil student from the University of London, I very quickly left behind the sort of the British university system and found myself in the field in Nigeria, then eventually made contacts with Nigerian colleagues and ended up teaching in Nigerian universities. So I was very lucky early on to be exposed to not just doing research, but promoting and developing the academic study of religion. Then we just called it comparative and historical. And we weren't using the terminology of critical back then. So I think that is something to think about, you know, at what point does this shift occur? And I think the shift occurs partly because of the more international and global South collaborations. And so something to bear in mind. But anyway, I then went on because of my passion for the academic study of religion, not just my own research, but the importance of having a strong historical, comparative, analytical approach to religion historically and in contemporary contexts. So I, through my own research and then through participation in various national associations, I was at one of the founding members of the African Association for the Study of Religions. And eventually, I was very privileged to become the president of the International Association for the History of Religions for 10 years. And I'm trying to remember, I think it was, anyway, it was two terms of 5 years. And so I went around the world, whether it's Latin America, Africa, Asia, and I had the challenging but absolutely, utterly rewarding and exciting task of helping local colleagues, scholars, graduate students get connected, bringing them to international conferences, helping organize international conferences in whether it was the Philippines or whether it was Bhutan or whether it was in Ghana or wherever. So I have, as Lee hinted at, I've had a lot of experience in this area. And now that may be too ambitious. I mean, this is not, you know, Lee mentioned the micro or the meso, you know, levels. I can understand that you have a more of a specific focus on religion and media and social communication. That is as it should be. You can't take on the whole of the study of religion, you know, and kind of reinvent it. You're doing it incrementally, gradually through your own research, aided, of course, by the age that we live in. We are here via Zoom. We can connect via Zoom. We can go into each other's classrooms. I mean, this is one of the benefits of the age that we live in. And when I was working back, you know, we didn't have this. And so this is a real asset, and which we benefit from, and also that enhances our own research, if it's, you know, even very overwhelming at times. So of course, it seems natural that you make the connection between sort of global Africa and global Asia. I hope at some point that you can connect with Latin America I would say that you would find plenty of colleagues working on similar topics in that area. There is maybe a bit of a language difference, but we managed, and it's also very important, I think, as you connect and collaborate, that as Lee hinted at, the kind of the sites for research and for the study of religion and media and all the kind of subsidiary topics vary according to different parts of the world. So when I first went to Argentina and to Brazil and to Mexico, there weren't really departments for the study of religion or comparative religion. They were more sort of housed in the social sciences, right? Whereas in parts of Asia, we found that people were trying, with this seeking to do a more comparative historical study of religion in faculties of theology. So we have to be savvy, aware of territories, disciplinary territories, geographical regions. It's challenging, but it's exciting. And I think, as I could see from and hearing from what's been said already, it's good to have a limited focus, right? And I think you've got a wonderful and timely one. And I did just note down that that I would hope that as you proceed, this generates lots of kind of productive, reflexive thinking about what is and what is becoming the critical comparative study of religion, and where are we coming in from into these questions? If you look at the past, at what was comparative religion, it has radically changed, and it has different goals, and as instantiated by your project here. So I'm all the time there's lots of nowadays, I think, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this literature, there are more general theoretical works available as articles or books that may be helpful, or from time to time, to think more in a more timely fashion about what it means to do comparative cultural study and work, particularly focusing on religion. Gone are the days when we were comparing religions and like that, and categorizing them according to all sorts of questionable criteria. So this, I really pick up on the fact that this is, an exciting new phase being generated in your collaboration, there is solidarity. And I think that instead of working as individual scholars, you are working, in partnership and teams. And I really do commend that. And I might want to come back later, but I just want to say that I'm delighted. I couldn't possibly say no to this invitation because I'm such a fan of Hassan and Zovu's work. I mean, I've known him since before he was a somebody, and delighted to see how his work is evolving into this whole new area of leisure and entertainment. That I'm really excited about. And how global is that? right? So I really look forward perhaps coming back with some questions. And I'm also a fan, I should add quickly, I'm a fan also of some of the other speakers here. And so you may be hearing from me down the line. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share a few words with you.
Thank you so much, Professor Hackett. I see some applause coming. Thank you very much for those, for the sharing those very thought-provoking, your thought-provoking contributions. And I think that we are going to pick up on many of the themes that you've brought up later on in the keynote lecture. And colleagues, once more, if you've not introduced yourself, please do. I see we have colleagues joining from Vietnam, from Kenya, various universities in Kenya. You can see who our keynote speaker is from India and from the Philippines. Please do let us know. And obviously to our local colleagues here in South Africa, thank you for making the time. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our PhD student, Ms. Zakina Dramat, who is going to do the formal introduction of our keynote speaker, Prof. Hassan. So Sakina, if you can go ahead. Once Sakina has introduced Prof. Hassan, then the floor is yours, and I will keep time for you. Thank you so much, Prof. Go ahead, Sakina. You can unmute.
Thank you, Prof. Lee. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's joint public lecture. It is a great honor and pleasure for me to introduce our keynote speaker, Professor Hassan Nzovu, Associate Professor of Religious Studies at MOI University in Kenya. Prof. Nzovu earned his PhD in Religious Studies from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, in collaboration with University of Beirut, Germany. He then held 2 postdoctoral fellowships at Freie Universität Berlin and later at Northwestern University in the United States. Since 2019, he has been a cluster member of the Africa Multiple Cluster of Excellence at the University of Beirut. His research explores Islam in sub-Saharan Africa with a focus on religion and politics, religious-based conflict, Islamic education, religion and sexuality, and most relevant to today's public lecture, Islam and popular culture. I had the privilege of hearing and experiencing this research for the first time in December 2025, when I was fortunate enough to be part of a cohort at a week-long workshop in Eldoret on Muslims and popular culture. During that week, I learned a lot from Prof. Hassan about the scholar I wanted to continue growing into. His students speak with great delight about the ways in which he supports their work. His colleagues like Dr. Musa Ibrahim also spoke very highly of him. He was also at the workshop. And this to me is a testament of the caliber of scholar that Prof. Hassan is. The depth and insight you bring, Professor Hassan, inspires me to want to continue producing knowledge and exploring how knowledge has been produced on similar topics in various disciplines. Prof. Hassan is the author of several publications, including 2 books, Muslims in Kenyan Politics, Political Involvement, Marginalization and Minority Status, published in 2014, and Religions in Contemporary Africa, an Introduction, published in 2019. Please welcome me in giving a warm virtual welcome to Professor Hassan Nzovu. Over to you, Prof. Nzovu. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Sakina, and thank you, Hackett, Prof. Hackett, for the kind words. I would like to share my slides before I begin my presentation. Okay, Sakina, can you see my slides?
Yes, Prof. I can see your slides. You can put it in presentation mode, perhaps.
Okay. Okay, now that's better.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you once again. And before I begin my presentation, I would like to invite you to watch this short video for just 1 minute so that you can have an idea of what I'm presenting. Yeah.
I think there is no sound.
Prof.
Oh,
Hassan,
you're saying there is no sound?
no sound.
Okay. Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. Sorry for that. Can you hear now?
No, not yet.
Hmm.
Apologies, colleagues. These things happen with online. We just ask for a little bit of grace. It was working
Okay.
earlier when we did a check.
Yeah. Yeah, because I thought it was working earlier. So,
I
Maybe
think
just
maybe
listen.
okay.
while sharing it, you have to click on allow sound. You don't just share it, you have to click the box that asks you to whether you want to share the sound or just the slides.
Ah, I thought we did that earlier. So sorry. Let me see again. Okay. Okay, let me try one last time and see if it's going to work. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So can you hear?
No, no sound.
Oh.
Oh no, no sound, yes.
Okay.
How would you like to proceed, Prof. Hassan?
Okay. I think, okay, if you cannot hear the sound, unfortunately, I'll proceed without it. Yeah. And I'll just talk to what I wanted to share with you. It's so unfortunate. So, good afternoon, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin, let me express my sincere gratitude to the Desmond Tutu Center for Religion and Social Justice and the Asian Research Center for Religion and Social Communication for the kind invitation to deliver this public lecture. I'm deeply honored to have the opportunity to share some reflection from my recent research with such a distinguished audience. I also wish to thank the organizer for creating this important platform for interdisciplinary conversation on religion, culture, and society. The video, unfortunately, that was not able to play, I had proposed some question, but I think I'll skip.
Excuse me, Prof. Hassan.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just did get some advice from a tech-savvy colleague saying that if you remove your headphones, you might be able to play the video.
Oh, fast. Okay. Okay.
So let's see, maybe that works. It's worth one more shot.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's just give that a try.
من فلسطين في سائر بقاع الأرض في طولها والعرض.
Can you hear the sound now?
It's working.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Na kumtangaza
We've lost sound again, unfortunately.
Prof. Hassan, please unmute, otherwise the sound won't play.
Professor Hassan?
Hassan, are you there?
Prof. Hassan?
Yes, I'm back now.
Sorry, if you can start the video and then do not mute yourself.
Okay. I
Okay.
think, okay.
Okay, we'll try it one more time. We are still actually on time, so go ahead.
Okay.
siku wa kufurahika na Bwana Mtume Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam na kumtangaza
Okay, so having thanked the organizer of this event today, allow me to begin with a simple question. I hope, Lee, you can hear me.
You are audible. Go ahead.
Okay, so allow me to begin with a simple question. What do you think you've just watched? Was it a concert? Was it a religious gathering? Was it a cultural festival? Or was it perhaps something entirely different? Most people who encounter these images for the first time are uncertain how to classify what they are seeing. That uncertainty is precisely where today's lecture begins. I want to move to the next slide. but I seem not to be able to move to the next slide.
Sakina, can you assist?
Let's see. Use the cursors, Prof. Hassan. Let's see if that will
Yeah,
help.
okay.
Here
Here we go.
So the images you've just seen were recorded in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, during one of the country's largest annual Muslim cultural event. The event is known as Lailatul Helwa, literally translated as the Night of Joy. Every year, shortly after the end of Ramadan, thousands of Muslims gather for this remarkable occasion. Families arrive together, young people, great friends with excitement, religious scholars occupy the front rows, government officials and political leaders take their seats. Diplomats, invited guests, and members of the wide public fill the hall. The venue itself is the Diamond Jubilee Hall, a modern social hall normally associated with conferences, wedding, concerts, and public entertainment. The Lailatul Helwa event does not begin with music. It begins with a prayer. The audience then rises to sing the Tanzanian national anthem. Immediately afterwards, a melodious recitation of the Quran fills the hall. The atmosphere changes. Only after these moments of devotion does the Nasaha crew begin its musical Qasida performance. As I analyzed different episodes of Lailatul Helwa, one question kept returning to my mind. And the question is, can a concert hall become sacred? This question may sound deceptively simple, but it challenges one of the assumptions that has shaped much of the academic study of religion. Many of us have inherited categories that separate religion from entertainment. Religion is expected to belong to mosques, churches, temples, and other sacred spaces. Concert halls belong to the world of leisure. Religious devotion is expected to be solemn. Entertainment is associated with pleasure. Yet, everything I analyze about Lailatul Helwa challenged those assumptions. Here was a modern concert hall functioning as a place of worship, a place of learning, a place of artistic creativity, and a place of profound religious experience. Music was not distracting people from religion. Music had become one of the principal ways through which religion was being experienced. Pleasure was not replacing piety, but pleasure appeared to deepen religious commitment and strengthen communal belonging. The experience forced me to rethink one of the enduring assumptions in the study of religion. What if religion and popular culture are not opposing worlds? What if music, beauty, leisure, and enjoyment are not threats to religious life, but among the very ways through which religious knowledge is communicated, ethical sensibilities are cultivated, and communities of faith are formed? These questions form the starting point of today's lecture. Through the story of Lailatul Helwa and the remarkable work of the Nasaha crew, I would like to invite you to consider the relationship between religion, music, pleasure, and public culture in contemporary Africa. The central argument I will develop this afternoon is both simple and, I hope, thought-provoking. That is, religion does not disappear when it enters popular culture. Rather, it is reimagined, performed, heard, embodied, and experienced through it. To understand how this happens, let us first explore the origin of the Nasaha crew and the remarkable journey that transformed a musical group into one of the most influential expressions of contemporary Islamic popular culture in Tanzania. Having introduced Lailatul Helwa, let me introduce the people who make this remarkable event possible. Every great performance has a story. Every institution has founders. Every movement has visionaries. Lailatul Helwa is no exception. At the center of this remarkable event stands an extraordinary musical group known as the Nasaha crew. Today, the group is widely recognized as Tanzania's leading Qasida orchestra. But their story is about much more than music. It is a story of religious commitment, innovation, vision, and transformation. The story begins with one man, Abdallah Aziz Mfaume Masanga, affectionately known as Zingizi. He was not simply a music promoter, nor was he merely a businessman. He had a religious vision. He believed that Qasida could become one of the most effective ways of communicating Islamic teachings to contemporary society. Rather than preaching only through sermons, he imagined preaching through music. He invested his own resources to support that vision. He recruited talented musicians. He financed recordings. He organized performances. Above all, he believed that artistic excellence and religious commitment could coexist. His dream was not to entertain Muslims, but his dream was to inspire them. One of the most fascinating moments in this story concerns Mariam Mamdoun. Before joining the Nasaha crew, she was already an accomplished Tarab singer. Zingizi recognized her remarkable voice, but he challenged her. He encouraged her to leave Tarab and dedicate her talent to Qasida. It was a significant decision. It meant moving from one musical tradition into another with a very different religious purpose. She accepted the challenge. Looking back, that decision would transform not only her own career, but also the future of the Nasaha crew. Another central figure is Sharif Koba. If Zingizi provided the vision, Sharif Koba became one of the principal architects of the group's artistic identity. During my conversation with him, one thing that became immediately clear: the members of the Nasaha crew do not think of themselves primarily as entertainers. They think of themselves as people carrying out a religious responsibility. Sharif Koba explained their mission in very simple terms, and I quote, "Religion is nasiha. End of quotation. That single sentence explains the group's name. The Arabic word Nasiha means sincere advice, guidance, or moral counsel. For them, music is not an end in itself. Music is the vehicle through which religious advice is communicated. Today, the Nasaha crew represents something quite remarkable. It combines Arabic poetic traditions, Swahili language, Tanzanian musical rhythms, modern orchestral arrangements, and Islamic devotional teachings. The result is neither purely traditional nor simply modern. It is something new, a contemporary expression of Tanzanian Islam rooted in both local culture and the wider Islamic world. The group demonstrates that religious tradition is not static. It evolves, it adapts, it speaks new cultural languages while remaining grounded in the enduring religious values. I will share with you a short quotation from Sharif Koba, and I quote, "We praise Muhammad, we mention the righteous people, we celebrate the good thing. This is the night of joy, usiku wa furaha." End of quotation. I find this quotation profoundly revealing. Notice what is absent. There is no emphasis on commercial success, no discussion of fame, no desire for celebrity. Instead, the language is entirely religious. Praise, righteousness, goodness, joy. For the members of the Nasaha crew, music is not simply performance. It is worship, it is education, it is moral guidance, it is an act of devotion. Understanding this helps us appreciate that Lailatul Helwa is not merely a musical event. It is the public expression of a much larger religious vision. But this raises another important question. If music is functioning as sacred space, if music is functioning as worship, if concert hall is functioning as sacred space, if joy itself becomes a vehicle for religious experience, how should we understand this phenomena? It is to that question that I now turn. By now, you may be wondering why I've spent so much time describing a musical event. After all, every society has festivals, every religious tradition has music, every culture celebrates. So why should Lailatul Helwa matter beyond Tanzania? My answer is simple. Because it forces us to rethink some of the most fundamental assumptions in the academic study of religion. For more than a century, much of the academic study of religion has been shaped by a series of powerful distinctions. Religion belongs here, entertainment belongs there. Sacred space is different from secular space. Prayer is different from pleasure. Devotion is different from leisure. These categories become so familiar that we rarely stop to question them. But what happens when we encounter an event that refuses to fit neatly into either category? Lailatul Helwa is one such event. Think again about what happens in the Diamond Jubilee Hall. The venue is a modern social hall. The performers use sophisticated lighting. An orchestra plays contemporary arrangements. Large video screens surround the stage. Yet the evening begins with prayer. The Quran is recited. The Prophet Muhammad is praised. Religious knowledge is transmitted. Ethical values are enforced. The audience experiences profound spiritual emotion. So I begin asking myself, is this a secular event? Well, I don't think so. Is it a conventional religious gathering? Well, not entirely, but it is something much more interesting. Perhaps the categories themselves are the problem. That realization changed the direction of my research. Instead of asking whether Laylatul Helwa is sacred or secular, I began asking a different question. How do people actually experience religion? That's the question. Not how we classify religion. Not how institutions define religion, but how ordinary Muslims live religion in everyday life. And what I discovered was that religion is often experienced through beauty, through sound, through emotion, through participation, and through collective joy. Listening carefully became just as important as watching. People were not passive spectators. They responded, they whispered prayers, they swayed gently. Some became emotional, others sang quietly with the performers. In that moment, listening itself became a religious practice. Knowledge was not being communicated only through words. It was being communicated through rhythm, through melody, through sound, through shared emotional experience. Clearly, religion was not simply being explained, but it was being experienced. At this point, I would like to state that religion does not disappear in modern public life. Sometimes it changes its rhythm. That sentence captures the central insight of my research. Too often, we assume that modernity pushes religion out of public life. Laylatul Helwa suggests something different. Religion has not disappeared. It has learned new cultural languages. It speaks through music, through performance, through media, through public festivals, through aesthetic. And this is not the decline of religion by doing so. It is one form of its transformation. Here, I would like to pose another question. Can pleasure become a pathway to piety? This, I believe, is the larger significance of Laylatul Helwa. The event invites us to rethink how religion operates in contemporary society. It encourages us to move beyond rigid oppositions between religion and popular culture, between worship and leisure, between devotion and pleasure. Instead, it reveals a more complex reality, one in which music becomes a vehicle for theological knowledge. Performance becomes a form of religious pedagogy. Joy becomes a means of ethical formation. And a concert hall becomes, if only for one evening, a sacred space. Having considered the larger question raised by Lailatul Helwa, let us now return to the event itself and explore how this transformation is actually produced through ritual, sound, and performance. I would like to invite you once again into the Diamond Jubilee Hall. This time, however, I want us to pay attention to something different. I want us to observe how sacred space is created. Because sacred space does not simply exist. It is produced, it is performed, it is experienced collectively. As I observed the program over several years, I realized that nothing happened by accident. Every stage of the evening was carefully choreographed. Every performance prepared the audience for the next. Gradually, the atmosphere changed, and the hall itself seemed to be transformed. The evening begins not with music, but with prayer. A respected sheikh raises his hands in supplication. He asks God to bless the gathering. He asks the love for the Prophet Muhammad fill the hearts of those present. He prays that future generation will inherit this love. This opening prayer immediately establishes the moral and spiritual orientation of the evening. The audience is no longer simply attending an event. They are participating in an act of devotion. The next moment is equally significant. Everyone stands to sing the Tanzanian national anthem. For me, this was a fascinating observation. National anthem and religious identity are not presented as competing loyalties. They appear together. Being Tanzanian and being Muslim are presented as complementary identities. The evening, therefore, speaks both to citizenship and faith. The atmosphere changes again. The Quran is recited. The hall becomes silent. People lower their heads. Some quietly whisper, Subhanallah. Others respond, Allah Akbar. The remarkable thing is that even those who may not fully understand every Arabic word are visibly moved, some even to tears. This reminds us that religious experience is not communicated only through meaning. Sometimes it is communicated through sound. The beauty of the recitation prepares the emotional landscape for everything that follows. The evening unfolds through a carefully choreographed sequence. Prayer prepares the gathering. Quranic recitation deepens the devotional atmosphere. Qasida extends that atmosphere through poetic praise of the Prophet. Each practice has a distinct religious status, yet together they create a continuous experience of devotion. Now the orchestra begins. The stage comes alive. Traditional Arabic melodic structure blends seamlessly with Kiswahili devotional poetry. The group combines Middle Eastern musical instruments with contemporary orchestral arrangements, creating a soundscape that is at once deeply rooted in the Islamic world and unmistakably East African. Sophisticated lighting, professional sound production, and carefully choreographed stage movement enhanced the performance, drawing the audience into the unfolding devotional experience. Everything about the presentation appears contemporary, yet its religious orientation remains unmistakably Islamic. The Prophet Muhammad is praised, righteous men and women are remembered, moral virtue are celebrated. Without doubt, religious teachings are communicated through poetry, melody, and collective participation. One of the most striking aspects of Laylatul Helwa is the visibility of women. Women perform publicly. They sing, they occupy the stage, some play instruments, yet they do so within an explicitly Islamic moral framework. They remain modestly dressed. The audience itself is organized according to Islamic norms. Gender visibility and religious commitment are not presented as opposites. Instead, they are carefully negotiated within the performance. Perhaps the most important performers are not actually on the stage. They are sitting in the audience. During the event, one will notice how they participate. Some gently sway with the rhythm, others whisper prayers or invoke blessing upon the prophet. Many sing softly along with the performers, transforming listening into an act of participation. At particularly moving moments, members of the audience leave their seats and walk towards the stage to go and kutuza the performers by presenting them with monetary gifts. Far from being a commercial transaction, kutuza is a public expression of appreciation, respect, and patronage. It recognizes not only the artistic excellence of the performers, but also their religious devotion and the moral message conveyed through the Qasida. These moments reveal that the audience is not simply consuming entertainment. They are actively shaping the performance. Through their voices, prayer, emotional responses, and acts of kutuza, they become co-creator of the event. Without their participation, there is no Laylatul Helwa. The sacred atmosphere emerges not from the performers alone, but also from the dynamic interaction between the performers and audience. Sacred space is therefore not produced on stage. It is collectively created through participation, reciprocity, and shared devotion. By the end of the evening, something extraordinary has happened. Nothing about the building itself has changed. It is still the Diamond Jubilee Hall. Yet everyone experiences it differently. For one evening, a venue normally associated with weddings, conferences, and concerts has become a place of devotion. Not because its walls have changed, but because the practices taking place inside it have transformed its meaning. This, I believe, is one of the most remarkable features of Laylatul Helwa. Sacred space is not simply inherited. It can also be created through ritual, through sound, through performance, through collective participation, and through shared joy. Here now I pose another question. How do we make sense of this transformation? That question occupied me throughout my fieldwork. I knew what I had witnessed. I had observed the performances. I had interviewed the musicians. I had listened to the audience, but I still lacked the conceptual language to explain what I had seen. It was only later that I encountered theoretical perspectives that enabled me to understand this remarkable process more clearly. Let me introduce these perspectives. After my fieldwork in Zanzibar and Dar es Salaam, I returned home with photographs, video recordings, pages of interview notes, and one persistent question. What exactly had I witnessed? That is the question. I knew it was more than a musical performance. It was more than a religious gathering. It was more than a cultural festival. Yet, none of these descriptions seemed sufficient. I needed different language, not the language of description, but the language of interpretation. But sometimes our concepts limit what we are able to see. As scholars, we depend upon concepts. They help us organize reality. They allow us to compare societies. They make interpretation possible. But sometimes the category we inherit become obstacles rather than tools. Laylatul Hilwa forced me to question some of those inherited categories. Perhaps the problem was not the event itself. Perhaps the problem lay in the concept I was using to understand it. It was during this period that I encountered the work of Veronica Della Dora. Her concept of the infra-secular immediately resonated with my field experience. The infra-secular refers to spaces that are neither conventionally sacred nor conventionally secular. Instead, they are places where spiritual meaning quietly emerges within ordinary spaces. This concept helped me understand something that had puzzled me from the beginning. The Diamond Jubilee Hall never became a mosque. Yet for one evening, it became a place of profound religious experience. The sacred was not imported into the building. It emerged through practice, through sound, through memory, through collective participation. A second insight came from scholars working on sound and listening. For a long time, scholars concentrated on what religion teaches. Increasingly, we are asking another question. How is religion heard? This may sound like a small shift. In reality, it changes everything. Listening is not passive. Listening is itself a religious practice. During Laylatul Hilwa, people are not simply hearing music. They are listening ethically, emotionally, spiritually. Sound becomes a way of knowing, a way of remembering, and a way of encountering the sacred. A third idea helped me understand why the music itself sounded so distinctive. The Nasaha crew combines Arabic melodic tradition with Kiswahili poetry, traditional Qasida with orchestral arrangements, Middle Eastern musical structure with Tanzanian rhythm. This is neither imitation nor cultural dilution. It is creativity. It is what Roland Robertson described as localization. Global religious tradition become rooted in local cultural worlds. The result is a form of Islam that is both universal and unmistakably Tanzanian. For me, this diagram captures the larger significance of the event. Laylatul Hilwa exists precisely where these three worlds meet: religion, popular culture, and everyday life. Rather than existing separately, they continually shape one another. This is why I prefer to speak of Islamic popular culture. Not because Islam becomes entertainment, but because religious life is lived through the cultural practices of ordinary Muslims. At this juncture, I would like to make another observation. Religion is not living public life. It is changing the ways in which it becomes public. This, I believe, is also one of the most important lessons emerging from my research. For many years, scholars asked whether modernity would make religion disappear. Laylatul Helwa suggests a different possibility. Religion has not disappeared. It has become more performative, more aesthetic, more mediated, more participatory, more deeply embedded within everyday public culture. Rather than retreating from modernity, Islam is engaging it creatively. Looking back, I realized that Laylatul Helwa is not simply about music. It is about how communities remember, how they celebrate, how they teach, how they create belonging, how they negotiate tradition and modernity, and how they continually recreate religious life through shared cultural experience. The event demonstrates that music, pleasure, beauty, and devotion are not competing realities. They are woven together into a single religious experience. This, I believe, is the enduring contribution of Laylatul Helwa to our understanding of Islam in contemporary Africa. Having interpreted the event through these conceptual lessons, let me conclude by reflecting on what Laylatul Helwa teaches us about religion, popular culture, and the future of African Islam. As we come to the end of this lecture, I would like us to return to the question with which we began. Can a concert hall become sacred? After spending several years studying Laylatul Helwa, my answer is unequivocally yes. But perhaps that is no longer the most interesting question. The most important question is this: what does Laylatul Helwa teach us about religion in contemporary Africa? For a long time, scholarship has tended to understand religion primarily through beliefs, doctrines, institutions, and texts. These remain indispensable, but Laylatul Helwa reminds us that religion is equally lived through the body, through sound, through emotion, through beauty, through collective celebration. Religion is not only something people think, but religion is something they experience together. What I have tried to demonstrate this afternoon is that Laylatul Helwa is much more than an annual musical event. It is a living expression of contemporary Islam. It is a place where memory is preserved, where ethical values are transmitted, where communities are formed, where young people encounter religious tradition in ways that are meaningful within their own cultural world, where global Islamic tradition are creatively reimagined through Tanzanian languages, music, and aesthetic. What is important for all of us to remember is that religion does not survive by resisting culture. It survives by engaging culture creatively. I believe this is the most significant lesson emerging from this research. Too often, we imagine that modern popular culture threatens religious life. Laylatul Helwa suggests a different possibility. Popular culture can become one of the most important vehicles through which religion renews itself. Music becomes pedagogy, performance becomes devotion, joy becomes an ethical practice, and beauty becomes a language through which faith is communicated. This has the implication far beyond Tanzania. Across Africa, we are witnessing Muslims engaging religious life through new cultural forms. This includes music, digital media, film, poetry, fashion, social media, public festivals, among others. So these developments invite us to rethink how we study religion. Rather than asking whether these practices are simply traditional or modern, we should ask how they shape new form of religious belonging, authority, and identity. Laylatul Helwa is one example of a much broader transformation taking place across the continent. Perhaps the future of religion will not only be written, perhaps it will also be sung. For me, this simple realization captures the broader significance of Laylatul Helwa. The future of religious life may not lie solely in theological texts or institutional reforms, but it may also lie in music, in performance, in public culture, in shared experience of beauty and joy. Religion continues to evolve, not by abandoning tradition, but by finding new ways of expressing it. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to conclude where I began. At the beginning of this lecture, I invited you into the Diamond Jubilee Hall in Dar es Salaam. Together, though very briefly, we watched a remarkable evening unfold. We encountered musicians who understood their art as devotion, audiences who transformed listening into worship, a concert hall that became, if only for one evening, a sacred space. In many respects, Laylatul Helwa is a celebration of music, but it is also something much deeper. It is a celebration of memory, of community, of creativity, of faith. Ultimately, it reminds us that religion is not merely inherited. It is continually recreated by communities who find new ways to express timeless truth within changing cultural worlds. That, I believe, is the enduring significance of Laylatul Helwa, not only in Tanzania, but for the study of religion in Africa and beyond. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Prof. Hassan. You already have comments in the chat feature and lots of applause coming through. I am not going to abuse my status as the chair this afternoon to make any comments, but I am actually going to immediately invite your first responder to do so. So, colleagues, if you will just allow me to introduce our first responder. I have the pleasure of introducing Prof. Chandrubana Patanayak, the founder and director of the Institute of Knowledge Societies, who has over 40 years of experience in education, cultural studies, new media communications, and filmmaking. He's a Commonwealth Scholar from McGill University in Montreal and has published over 150 scholarly articles and books, as well as produced over 100 educational films and documentaries. This is a remarkable body of work that speaks to his depth and breadth as a scholar and a creative practitioner. And I think just this brief introduction is testimony to why he is so well poised to respond to this very provocative and exciting lecture between the intersections of religion and popular culture delivered by Prof. Nzovo. So, Prof. Chandra, the floor is yours. You have about 10 to 12 minutes. I will be keeping time, so you can just keep an eye on me later.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you for this wonderful introduction. See, I am a rank outsider to this in the sense that I have never seen the Laylatul Helwa in real life. So what I thought was that I tried to look at and read about the tradition, and I tried to look at some of the performances online. And I realized that there are a lot of parallels and similarities in India. So I thought I might point out some of those, which might be useful, and then we can take it forward from there. The most obvious sort of closer kinship between the Laylatul Helwa is, of course, Qawwali. And then where I live in India, which is in Odisha, we have a tradition called Palla. If we look we find it in the Sufi Qawwali and the Palla tradition of Odisha. These are the kind of the close cousins of Laylatul Helwa. The Qawwali connection, much like modern Qasida in East Africa, Qawwali popularized globally by artists like Nusrat Fateh Ali and others, represent the commercial and popular evolution of Islamic praise poetry. So both have transitioned from intimate religious spaces, that is madrasas and shrines, to massive secular concerts, concert halls, and digital streaming platforms, as we just heard. Both use highly polished musical arrangements to make devotional praise accessible, appealing, and deeply moving to youth and even non-religious audiences. Now, similarly, Palla in Odisha is a folk form, is a folk performative tradition, which blends elements of theater, dance, and music. Just as the Nasaha crew, which I just heard of and saw some of the pictures, combines traditional Arabic Qasida with localized Tarab melodies, Palla singers blend Sanskrit literature with local Odia folk elements. Historically, Palla emerged as a bridge between faiths, frequently associated with Satyapir. Now, this is a very interesting thing which is very fascinating, which is Satyapir is a deity worshipped by both Hindus and Muslims in Odisha, mirroring the way Swahili Qasida acts as a cultural bridge across East Africa's coastal networks. So ultimately, Laylatul Helwa and other traditions show how two vastly different cultures solve the same human desire, the need to celebrate faith without discarding the human love for rhythm, drama, and community gathering. While Tanzania does it through modern pop sensibility and vocal mastery, Odisha achieves it through timeless folk theatre and raw physical devotion. Now, to fully try and understand, I'm not going to go deep into this, but to understand why Qawwali and Pala are closer spiritual and structural cousins to Laylatul Helwa, I think we have to look at how these genres handle language, text, and other historical evolution. Now, Laylatul Helwa, as far as I know, Laylatul Helwa, Qawwali, and Pala are all text-centric, intellectually playful, and deeply hybrid performative traditions. They don't just ask the audience to watch a ritual. They ask the audience to listen, debate, and feel. So the linguistic and cultural hybridity, all three genres are products of cultural melting pots where global religious traditions met deeply rooted local art forms. Now, Laylatul Helwa in Tanzania, the Swahili Qasida, is inherently hybrid, as far as I can tell. It takes the Arabic structure of the Qasida, which is the praise poetry, and infuses it with a musical style born in the royal courts of Zanzibar that blends Arabic, Indian, and African Bantu musical scales. The Nasaha crew sings in Swahili but uses Arabic theological loanwords, making the high-minded concepts accessible to the average Tanzanian market goer. Qawwali in North India and Pakistan and further, invented largely by the 13th century Sufi poet Amir Khusro, Qawwali was designed to bridge Persian Sufi mysticism with local Indian music. Khusro blended Persian vocabulary with Hindi, or the Hindavi, the local vernacular, and set it to North Indian classical raga frameworks. Palla in Odisha is perhaps one of the finest examples of deliberate Hindu-Muslim cultural synthesis in India. It is intimately tied to the worship of Satyapir, which is a combination of Satyanarayan for the Hindus and Pir for Muslims. A Pala performance seamlessly weaves together high Sanskrit texts like the Puranas with vernacular Odia poetry and Sufi-inspired concepts, proving that spiritual art forms thrive when they refuse to be monolithic. Now, the structural battle of wits, the Mukabla element. A defining feature of modern Tanzanian Qasida events like Laylatul Helwa is the element of competition and showcase, bringing multiple artists together to outdo one another in vocal prowess and lyrical depth. This maps perfectly into the performance structures of Qawwali and Pala. The Pala, or what we call the Jodi Pala, which is dueling troops, in a traditional Baithaki Pala or Thia Pala, which is either sitting down or standing up, two rival troops often perform in the same arena. The lead singer holds a chamara, a fly whisk, and a pair of cymbals acting as the narrator. The lead singer will quote a complex stanza of ancient poetry. The rival troupe must instantly decode the poem, explain its inner spiritual meaning to the audience, and counter it with an equally complex verse from a completely different text. This maps beautifully onto the live dynamic of the Nasaha cruise events, where different vocalists trade verses, building vocal tension and demanding that the audience appreciate the shairi and the theological depth of the lyrics. The Qawwali Muqabla, similarly, in commercial and folk Qawwali, the Muqabla, the competition, is a legendary format. Two groups sit opposite each other, taking turns to improvise lyrics, escalate the tempo, and throw poetic challenges back and forth. The thrill for the audience isn't just the music, it's watching masters of the craft think on their feet to praise the divine. So, from the sacred shrines to the commercial pop mart, the economic and media trajectory of Nasaha Crew's work mirrors exactly what happened to Qawwali in the 20th century and what is currently happening to modernized Palla in Odisha. So the movement is traditional sacred space, goes to hybrid public performance, goes to media, mass media, digital streaming. So the traditional sacred space is the madrasa, dargah, the hybrid public performances, festivals, and red carpets, and then YouTube, Spotify, whatever. Now, the Qawwali shift. For centuries, Qawwali was performed strictly at Sufi dargahs or shrines during the Urs, the death anniversary of a saint, to induce spiritual ecstasy. However, in the 20th century, brothers like the Sabri brothers and later Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan transitioned the genre into international concert halls, Bollywood cinema, and Western musical festivals. They added modern bass lines, slicker percussion, and short track times. The Tanzanian Odia parallel. This is the exact playbook Nasaha Crew uses for Lailatul Helwa. They took music that belonged in the madrasa or neighborhood Maulid, which is the Prophet's birthday, and put it on a red carpet stage in Dar es Salaam with high definition lighting, massive sound systems, and a heavy Instagram presence. In the same vein, modern Palla in Odisha has migrated from village squares lit by lanterns to highly produced stages during major festivals like Durga Puja and Kartik Purnima, complete with microphones, synthesizers, and video recordings for local television channels and YouTube. So, in summary, or to conclude, when you watch Nasaha Crew perform under the strobe lights of a packed hall in Tanzania, you're witnessing the exact same cultural phenomenon as an audience cheering for a crescendo at a Delhi Qawwali concert, or a village crowd erupting as a Palla Gayak perfectly solves a lyrical riddle in rural Odisha. All three traditions prove that theology becomes vibrant only when it sings, dances, and enters the marketplace. They take religion out of the strict control of the orthodox clerics and hand it over to the artist, the poet, and the public. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Chandra. I'm now just going to hand over to Dr. Leduc to introduce our second respondent. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. It's now my pleasure to introduce our second respondent for today's lecture, Dr. Musa Ibrahim. Dr. Ibrahim is a senior research fellow at the Center for Cultural and African Studies at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana. He brings a wealth of international expertise to our discussion this evening, having previously served as a postdoctoral fellow at the Henry Luce Foundation's Initiative on Religion in International Affairs at the University of Florida. He's also earned his PhD from the Beirut International Graduate School of African Studies at the University of Beirut in Germany. Dr. Ibrahim's research focuses deeply on the intersections of religion, media, and popular culture, and his work has been widely published in leading academic circles, including the African studies. So given this extensive background in how media and religion converse within the African context, we're incredibly fortunate to have him share his insights and reflections on today's keynote presentation. So join me in welcoming Dr. Musa Ibrahim.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Anthony Leduc and Dr. Lee Sherman Udemans. And thank you very much, Professor Hassan Zogo, for this rich and engaging, as well as thought-provoking lecture. It is an honor to serve as a respondent. So let me begin by saying that Hassan makes an important contribution to the anthropology of Islam, African studies, and the study of religion more broadly. He offers a compelling ethnographic account of a contemporary Tanzanian Muslim performance tradition and how musical practice, listening, devotion, and public culture intersect in fascinating ways. So I would like to organize my reflections around 4 themes. The first one is about sounds, performance, and religious knowledge. One of the strongest elements of Hassan's talk is the use of the Deborah's caption notion of sound knowledge and sacred listening. He usefully demonstrates that Islamic knowledge is not transmitted only through texts, sermons, or formal instruction. It is also communicated through sound, emotion, performance, rhythm, memory, and bodily participation. This insight is particularly significant because scholarship on Islam, as Lee has highlighted, has often privileged textual learning and doctrinal knowledge. Yet, as Professor Hassan's ethnography demonstrates, participants encounter Islam through affective experiences generated by Quranic recitation, Qasida performance, collective listening, emotional responses such as shedding tears during listening, and shared sensory engagement. I therefore find especially I find it persuasive, especially your suggestion that listening is not passive reception, but active religious practice. The audience does not merely hear, they participate in producing the sacred atmosphere through their attentive listening and emotional responsiveness. But at the same time, also, I will encourage you to push this argument even further. If listening itself becomes a source of religious knowledge, what kind of knowledge is being produced? Is it doctrinal knowledge, moral knowledge, emotional knowledge, ethical dispositions, or perhaps forms of piety that cannot be easily reduced to propositions and texts? I mean, can we think of Qasida performance as an alternative epistemology of Islam, one that complements textual authority rather than simply disseminating it? So the second issue concerns the problematic sacred-secular divide, which you have discussed quite very well. You ask, can a concert hall become sacred? To which you answered yes. And you put it that Laylatul Halwa transforms secular space into sacred space. For me, this is a stimulating argument, but I wonder whether the notion of a movement from the secular to the sacred adequately captures what is happening ethnographically, especially in non-Western contexts where it is increasingly difficult to separate the two. The Laylatul Halwa is held in a modern social hall, which you showed us it is outside and also the setting inside. Yet from the beginning, it incorporates dua, Quranic recitation, praise of the Prophet, Islamic dress, gender norms, and explicitly religious intentions right from the beginning when the founder insists that it has to carry religious connotations. Furthermore, the term Qasida itself is not a secular category, but an Islamic poetic and devotional genre. So in addition to your strong point that sacred spaces are made, one could also argue that these venues, especially in non-Western contexts, are not originally secular space that later become sacred. Rather, we can think of they are multi-purpose public spaces that are temporarily configured through religious practice and also temporarily reconfigured into other things. The event may reveal not a crossing of a firm boundary between sacred and secular, but the instability of that distinction itself, which you have highlighted in your presentation. I therefore think your paper could benefit from engagement with scholarship that questions whether sacred and secular constitute separate domains in many non-Western contexts. Related to this, I was also struck by the sequence of activities at the event: supplication, the national anthem, Quranic recitation, and Qasida performance. This sequence beautifully illustrates a convergence of three social projects: religion, nationalism, and leisure. The events appear simultaneously to produce good Muslims, good citizens, and forms of communal entertainment. This is a very powerful observation, and I would encourage, a further conversation about it. So my third set of reflections concerns social differentiation. In your presentation, you pointed that the performers are typically held in this prestigious venue, the Diamond Jubilee Hall, and attended by political leaders, diplomats, religious elites, and other prominent figures. So this raises an important question: who exactly constitutes the audience? I mean, are ordinary Muslims present in substantial numbers? Do they purchase tickets and attend physically? Or do they consume recordings online or watch on televised broadcasts? Or maybe they engage the Qasida through digital media. Understanding audience composition will help us better assess whether Laylatul Halwa functions primarily as an elite cultural event or whether it reaches much wider Muslim public, which also relates to the question of popular culture, Islam and popular culture. So a second issue is about gender. I found the story of Maryam Mamdoon particularly fascinating because a transition from Tarab to Qasida opens important questions regarding women's religious authority, performance, and visibility in contemporary Muslim societies. You very well demonstrate that women occupy prominent positions as performers, organizers, musicians, and public representatives. However, this visibility operates within frameworks of modesty, veiling, and gender segregation, as I see when you are presenting the settings within this hall. So rather than treating this feature simply as, in most of the literature restriction, I really think we could understood them as mechanisms that legitimize women's public participation. In other words, these norms are enabling as well as they are constraining in a different context. The gender dynamics of the Nasaha crew observes even fuller analysis because they speak directly to broader debates on women, religiosity, and public culture in Africa. And again, also the Dubai recordings, professional video editing images, image production, and shortening songs to commercially viable formats, which you discuss in your paper, are branding strategies that the Nasaha crew has adopted, and it all shows it is not merely about devotion, as you have argued, but also as cultural entrepreneurship. This raises the productive question: when religious performance becomes professionally marketed, does this weaken their spiritual significance, strengthen it, or simply transform the modes through which devotions circulate? So my final observation concerns your work's broader implications. One of its most important interventions is the challenge it poses to older portrayal of African Islam as derivative or peripheral. The Nasaha crew demonstrate that Tanzanian Muslims are not passive recipients of external Islamic influence. Rather, they actively select, reinterpret, localize, and reassemble transnational cultural forms. Your ethnographic field work reveals, multiple circulation. There is Arabic poetic tradition in it. Then you also Egyptian orchestral influence, the Zanzibari musical expertise, the best that the groups sought for, and the international guest performers like the Indonesian and also diplomats present. And the fact that some of the music are produced in Gulf states, which is intertwined with the Tanzanian Muslim cultural creativity. So what emerges out of this is not imitation, but innovation. So this is why I found your discussion of globalization particularly convincing. The music is simultaneously local and global. It is Tanzanian and transnational. It is African and Islamic. These categories are not mutually exclusive, but mutually constitutive. And I think this is one of your strongest contribution. So let me conclude by reiterating my appreciation for this excellent lecture that you have given us today, and the three major contributions which I have noted. The first, you demonstrate that sound, listening, and performance are central mechanisms through which religious knowledge is produced and transmitted. Second, it offers a nuanced account of how Islamic devotion inhabits public space through music, ritual, and collective participation. Third, you show how contemporary African Muslims creatively negotiate global flows of religious culture while maintaining distinctly local forms of expression. So as you develop the paper further, I will encourage greater attention to 4 questions. What precisely is the nature of the religious knowledge generated through listening? Does the sacred secular distinction adequately describe the event, or does the ethnography which you have undertaken suggest a different conceptual framework? How do class, audience, and composition and gender shape participation in Laylatul Helwa, with high presence of diplomats and also maybe less presence of ordinary Muslims? And how should we understand the relationship between devotion, branding, and commodification in contemporary Islamic performance. So these questions are intended not as criticism, but as invitations to extend an already strong and promising argument. Thank you again, Professor Hassan Zogu, for this stimulating presentation, and thanks to the organizers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Musa, for sharing your insights with us. We had planned to end our lecture on the hour, but I'm going to take some liberties as the chair here. And Prof. Hassan, I want to give you just 5 minutes, if you will. Prof. Hassan, are you still with us? You can put your camera on. 5 to 6 minutes. I'm going to have to be quite strict on the time here. I know that there's a lot to discuss. And I mean, we'll also have to discuss how we can, how we can make this lecture into a more sustained conversation, I think, because based on the comments that we have and all of the various ideas that have generated from both Chandra's response and Musa's response, I think there's so much to unpack. So I just want to give you 5 to 6 minutes to respond to our colleagues, and then we're going to have to close quite soon. But thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Lee, and thank you, Musa and Chandra, for your response, and also for suggesting the possible area that I need to look at as a way of improving my paper. I think most of the intervention that I've listened from the two respondents were generally comments, and also showing that whatever is happening in Dar es Salaam with regard to Laylatul Elwa is not something unique, but also like in the Indian context, we're also having similar, but maybe observed slightly different, but still there are a lot of commonality if one is to look at this two events. But there was a question that I saw, if I could read it in the chat. Okay, let me see that only with that one question. I saw somebody asking here, how do you respond to critiques that Laylatul Helwa, by turning devotional Qasida into popular, ticketed and streamed performances, risk commodifying devotion, diluting ritual meaning, provoking conflicts with the religious authorities, and creating ethical and authenticity concerns for Islamic practice in Tanzania. So I really don't have I really would say a very comprehensive response to that. But what I noted is that what is important for us and for myself when I was doing this particular study, what was important to me was to reflect on the debates that are found across many religious traditions. And when I embarked to studying this phenomena of Laylatul Elwa, my role as a researcher was not to determine whether Laylatul Elwa is religiously legitimate or is not. I think I didn't want to go to that. For me, I feel that is not my place. But for what I wanted to show is to understand how the participants experience it. So this is what I wanted myself to bring out. So whether it is acceptable or not, this is not something that I will try to make a conclusion in my paper, the larger paper. So from my presentation and also the larger paper, which I think the draft paper, which Musa had an opportunity to read, and that's where he drives also most of his comment. My research was to show that participants for this particular event of Laylatul Elwa do not only see it as an entertainment, but there's more to that. So for them, they don't see that as a form of entertainment that is coming in to replace devotion. For perhaps these are some of the also things that Musa was raising. It is not clear for them that they have raised this clear demarcation, categorizing entertainment. So they don't see it as entertainment that replaces devotion, but they regard it as a contemporary form of expressing their devotion. That's what I would say for that particular question. And yes, Musa, I agree with all the concern that you've raised, the issue of visibility of women. If in my paper I've created an impression that these are some kind of obstacle, I think, yeah, I'll need to rephrase that. I should not see them as obstacle when these women are performing and dressing modestly. There's this separation of gender. We have men sitting this side and women sitting the other side. Yes, it is, you are correct that I need to see them as efforts that are being used to legitimize women participation in the public. So I shouldn't just look at them as a restriction, even if they are expected to dress modestly, so long as the opportunity has been availed. This is the way they are expected to present themselves. Then I think we need to look them through the lens as efforts that are being made to legitimize women participation in public. So thank you, Chandra and Musa. We'll look at the question way that I need to carefully address them as a way of improving my paper. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Hassan. And colleagues, I've noted your comments in the chat, and I would love for us to just keep chatting, but unfortunately we have run out of time for today's session. And I mean, Anthony and I will take note of this because I feel like we could have carried on for much longer than we had anticipated. And I've left contact details for the Desmond Tutu Center in the chat, but also you can just Google the Desmond Tutu Center and the ARC as well, and you can find out details there. And you are most welcome to email us if you want to receive more information about what it is that we are doing, or if you have suggestions for next year, because this is part of a community that we would like to continue to grow. So we'd love to see you at our lecture next year, or to find you somewhere else on maybe one of the conference circuits, or at other events across our continent, colleagues. And now I have the pleasure of once again handing over to my dear colleague, Reverend Anthony Leduc, who will say a few words of thanks. Anthony, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is really unfortunate that we don't have enough time, because I feel so much energy in the chat, as well as in myself too, as I was listening to the presentation, and I was thinking of all these interreligious, intercultural, intercontextual questions that were provoked by your presentation, as well as the responses. So I think maybe perhaps in the future we can facilitate another meeting where we can explore this in a deeper way, because I think there are so many questions that are brought up, and that we can continue to explore further. So today, as we run out of time, I would like to once again express my deep thanks on behalf of our centers to all of you, to our keynote speaker, Dr. Hassan, to our respondents, Dr. Musa and Dr. Chandra, for your insights and your thought-provoking questions and issues that you brought up. And we also give thanks to our team from the two centers for organizing this together. And we hope that this conversation will continue in this format, as well as other formats, where we can continue to engage on this intercultural, interreligious, and intergeographical conversation. Thank you very much, and thank you to all of you who are joining us from various time zones and various context as well. Your presence has made this, an intimate but extremely enriching event, and we hope to receive your presence again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, a good morning, or a good day. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye. We stay in touch. Thank you,
Thank
colleagues.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.